Hi, everybody. Welcome once again to Jackal's Fire TV. My name is Chuck. With me live via the magic of the internet is my darling sister, Cilla. Say hi, Cilla.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to JoF TV.
How are you this fine, beautiful Saturday morning?
Oh, I'm doing great. I am in Wimberley, which is a very small suburb of Austin, and I'm going to experience the joys of Christmas in a small town tonight.
Hang on. I disagree with that. It's not close enough to be a suburb. Leander, Cedar Park, those are suburbs. Georgetown, even. Wimberley's too far south to be a suburb.
Okay, it's a small pocket in the hill country.
That's a better way to say it. Is this pretty little town in the hill country of Texas, south of Austin, and it's its own thing. It has nothing to do with Austin.
It is really its own thing, and it is a very small town. I jokingly refer to it as Smallville.
Yeah, that's not bad, except that it's clearly not Kansas because there's not enough farming going on there. But it does have that definite Smallville, small town vibe. So
Yes.
I get that.
There's so much here that really does, and there is ranching land and whatnot, and there's so many aspects of it that remind me of Smallville as it's portrayed both in the show and the comics.
Yeah, but no corn or wheat.
No corn. No cornfields.
Let's see. So it's Saturday. It's December 14th. We all survived Friday the 13th. I made it real easy on myself. I just didn't leave the house.
I did have the day off work, and it did turn out to be a pretty good day. It was an emotional day for me. December the 13th is the anniversary of my great-grandfather's passing, and it's happened to be a Friday the 13th that year,
Right.
As it was this year. So it was a little extra hard.
Sure, I understand that.
Some people have such an impact on your life 17 years after losing them, it still hurts.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So it was an emotional day.
And let's face it. I mean, this is not just some guy. This is your grandfather. I mean, you know. So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So it was an emotional day for me. Definitely a day that made me remember to let my loved ones know they're loved.
Right. Absolutely.
Always want to do that while you have time.
Yeah. Sure.
Today I'm going, like I said, to Wimberley Square and going to enjoy Christmas lights and songs with my grandmother. Very excited about that.
Very cool. I'm noticing. I'm sorry. I'm noticing that you have new earrings. Show everybody your new earrings.
Oh yes, I have new earrings. I got them at Comic-Con. They're obviously Supergirl. I'm all dressed up in my Supergirl stuff today. Got the Supergirl Fearless necklace.
I'm sorry. I'm also noticing the earbuds. Hold that up to the camera.
Oh.
Okay, that's going a bit far. Do they sound okay? What type of earbuds are those?
They're just typical earbuds.
No, okay. No name brand or anything?
I don't know.
They're not Gucci?
No, not Gucci.
Okay.
I'm showing my Kara support today for reasons we'll get into very soon. Before we get into the bulk of the show, and believe me, there is bulk, I want to make an official announcement, one that I actually meant to make in the last show, and we just got on all kinds of tangents and never got to it. And our listeners, I'm sure, have figured this out by now, or our viewers, as it were. If you haven't noticed, we have officially stopped doing an audio-only version of this cast and have moved solely to video.
Right.
It's not because we don't love people listening to us. It's just this is a better format for us, and there's so many ways to pull audio off of YouTube now. If you really want an audio version of it, you can pull the audio off. And if you don't know how and you really want an audio version, email me and I'll send one to you.
Yeah, we'll be happy to do so.
But going through the trouble of posting video and audio was double the work and didn't really seem to make much sense in the grand scheme of things.
Right. Now that we're more comfortable doing the video portion of it, the Jackalo's Fire TV. I think it's probably time to move away from an audio only cast.
Exactly. We've sort of moved past that.
Yeah.
So the only place to find us now will be JoF TV.
Right.
So there you go. Obviously, I do like to do these in our studio, which is where it looks like you are.
Yep. Sitting in my awesome studio in my awesome apartment. I'm in my dining room.
Unfortunately, I was unable to.
Converting my dining room to a studio.
I was unable to be in the studio today because I'm here, and this has been planned for weeks. But we did need to film a episode today because we have some breaking news in the comic book world that we feel needs to be addressed. Before we get to the breaking news, I want to get to a quick review of Thor 2, or The Dark World.
Wait. How long have you known us? Have we ever done anything quick?
I can hope.
Yeah, you can hope.
So you finally have seen it. I've seen it twice now, so I may have a different perspective because I may have seen things I didn't catch before, because let's face it, the first time I was fixated on how many scenes Loki had. The second time I actually got to enjoy the whole thing knowing... Okay, and I'm going to say right now, this is spoiler zone. If you, for some reason, have not seen Thor: The Dark World, don't listen to this review yet, because...
Inevitably, there will be spoilers.
I'm not holding anything back. I'm going to talk about every aspect of the movie I loved and hated, and details will be told. Right. So this is your warning. If you listen past now,
it's on you. Yeah. Now, I'm going to start just because you've seen it. So this is my first impression. It was really good. I'll go ahead and throw that out there. This is a much funnier Thor than the first movie was. The interaction between the whole cast, not just Thor and Loki, and the main villain whose name escapes me at the moment, so we'll just call him Chris. Not just them, but the supporting cast as well, bringing back Jane and her team, and it was a very fun movie to watch, and it was what the first Thor really was lacking. It was that, not just the sense of adventure, but the humor. The first one was a little too. I'll say it this way: it was too Shakespeare, and that's fine. It's Kenneth Branagh. He is very Shakespeare, but Thor doesn't have to be Shakespeare. Right. And I kind of like that it's not. So for me, this was a better movie. And it
definitely had more humor in it this time around.
Yeah, it really did. I love when they find the holes between the dimensions, and they're throwing shit in, and the dude throws his car keys in there. I'm like, really, dude?
I liked those holes, and honestly, and I'm jumping a little ahead in the movie here, but I'm not typically one that likes fight scenes. Like this fight scene in Man of Steel dragged on forever for me. I don't like long, drawn-out fight scenes. Mm-hmm. This one, I enjoyed. Watching Malekith and Thor go through the holes as they're fighting was hilarious.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It was fun. It was entertaining. It was adventurous. It was everything that Thor should have been. The fight scene was great. The humor was right there where it needs to be, because it's not over the top humor. It's not over the top fighting, and it's not over the top adventuring. It's not like watching a Dungeons and Dragons movie where it's all about the adventure. It's one of the best written and directed superhero films that I've seen in quite some time, and Marvel continues to do this. They continue to put out really good, high quality films. And while the first Thor was a little bit of a letdown, like I said, it was a little too Shakespearean, it was still good.
And I
Um,
think that the first Thor needed that, though. I think for the introduction of Thor, that fit.
it may
Now
have.
that now that we've had a Thor that's been on Midgard more, he's worked with the Avengers more. Um, he knows the other heroes. I think we saw a more humanized Thor, one that's been away from Asgard, that isn't as Shakespearean,
Right.
or as Tony Stark put it, Shakespeare in the Park. um,
um, but
I
anyway,
like I liked the movie. Obviously, I enjoyed the movie as a whole more the second time around, because I am a Loki fangirl, and so for me, seeing it the first time really was counting how many times I got to see Loki on screen and how many great lines he had. Because let's face it, in all three movies, both Thor's and the Avengers, Loki gets some of the best written lines.
yes, I'll agree with that. Whoever has done the writing across the board has really done well with Loki's lines.
And Tom Hiddleston's delivery of said lines is just amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. He
you
really has done a really great job of embodying that spirit that Loki needed.
he gets the character,
Yeah,
and you can tell.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
managed to make a character that's supposed to be a villain absolutely lovable. Um,
Which
I
is no
will
small task.
no. Um, he's the god of mischief. He's not really supposed to be lovable, but yet he is.
Right.
Um, I think that he did the same thing in this film. Loki was hilarious, but he also, at least for me, drew out some sympathy. Um, you really got to see this time around the, in spite of the trials that Loki's had with Odin and Thor, he loves Frigga. Whether he wants to admit that that's his mom or not, he does see her as a mom.
Yeah,
He loves
absolutely.
her.
Absolutely. And you see that in the scene where he and his mother are talking, and then she kind of disappears. And I had to think about that because at first I thought, okay, wait, was she really there? And I've decided that she was never there.
No, I
It
think that
wasn't
that's
just a
his.
matter of her like projecting her image to him, which was what it appeared at first. But no, it was completely a made up conversation. He was talking to himself. The way he would expect his mother to talk to him.
Right. Now, all of that was a creation of Loki's magic. He did it for himself, and I think, in a manner of speaking, she is his conscience.
Yeah, definitely. And so you see that, and when all that is stripped away, um, right before Thor releases him to help, you see how far the mighty have fallen. And so it really it's a very compelling couple of scenes dealing with Loki in his little jail cell because you keep seeing him. You know, he's very clean and he's still got that "I'm better than you" haughty attitude. But then Thor says, you know, okay, enough, no more illusions, and you see him stripped down to what he really is, which is miserable.
Hmm.
And he should be. I mean, let's face it, he's in prison. It's not a happy place.
No.
You know, and then he earned his way into that prison. So yeah, he absolutely should be miserable.
Oh yeah,
So
he only blew up New York City and tried to take over all of Midgard. Yeah, he
yeah,
earned it.
yeah, it was just a little just a little mayhem and destruction. No
Well,
big
and I
deal.
do love that scene where in the very first scene that we see him, they take him to Odin, and his attitude is that, "What are you so upset about, Father?
Yeah, it's not like I was
Just
trying to take
Midgard."
your throne. It's just Midgard. I was just going to rule them. No big deal. You know, I was going to be a benevolent god. You're not a god. I might as well be.
Exactly. I love that scene, and he
Yeah,
played it so well.
he really did. And you know, and Sir Anthony, he does a really good job as Odin, I think,
Yes.
because he is that elder statesman father figure, but aloof kind of guy. He does that really well.
Yes, he made a wonderful Odin.
Yeah. So, although I'm
I
glad
think
that they're not going to be bringing him back. I want to see the brothers move on after having lost their parents.
I think, and actually, I'll get to that in a second. I think my favorite scene, though, was where Loki's switching up appearances, and he switches into Steve.
That's a very funny scene. He becomes Captain America. He turns Thor into Lady Sif. Yeah, and then he just becomes some guard. I think that's a pretty cool scene.
Yes, I think just the quick little cameo of Captain America in there, and the way they did it was so funny and so well done. And Chris Evans playing that, the way he played that with the humor and the over-the-topness of it all was just hilarious.
Yeah, he took that extra step that Captain America has not had so far. Thankfully.
Thankfully, yes.
Yeah, the over the top big blue Boy Scout, that attitude.
Which you could totally see Loki having that impression of Captain America.
Right.
So
even though it's not exactly true.
Right. But from Loki's standpoint, you can see how he would think that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So very well done. Very well played by both actors. And I think my other favorite scene, and really the comedy scenes were my favorite. The scene where Thor's flying the spaceship and Loki's just being a pain in the ass. It's like two brothers on a road trip.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Watching scenes like that made me think of us, because we have that. While granted we're not brothers, but you and I have that sibling banter quite often.
Yes.
And so it makes me think of us. It makes me think of Lee and I when we were younger. Not so much now. But yeah, it makes me think of that, and I think that's a good thing. That means that whoever was writing, because I didn't see who the writer was, but whoever was writing those scenes has a sibling. They understand what siblings do to each other. Just drive them nuts.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth has actually said that those scenes are some of his favorites too, because it reminds him of road trips with his brothers.
Right, there you go.
So I think everyone can relate to those scenes, and it makes Thor and Loki, who are essentially gods, relatable in a human way.
Yeah, from our perspective, they are what we would think of as gods. So I like the whole idea that they are aliens. But then again, I like the ancient alien thing. So with the guy with the hair. The whole concept that our gods, the Norse gods, the Greek gods, whatever, were all just really technologically advanced aliens. I think that's pretty cool. That's a great idea. And for them to have incorporated that concept into Thor, which the comic books don't really do. In the comic books, they're gods. They're really gods. They're not aliens. So I like that they're doing that they're going, okay, well, they're not really gods, not in the traditional sense. They are technologically advanced aliens who would appear to be gods to us. Cool, I'm good with that. Takes out the religious overtones.
Yes, and I understand why they did that.
Yeah.
Personally, I like the concept of different gods, but I always have. So I don't necessarily like that aspect of it particularly, but I don't dislike it either. I think it works for the films.
Yeah.
I think, okay.
I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Moving on
I love
to
that guy.
from
you know
from
who I'm
Thor.
talking about, right? You know the guy I'm talking about, right? With the hair, the ancient aliens guy,
No.
Giorgio, whatever.
But moving on from Thor and Loki for a second to Malekith. What did you think of Christopher Eccleston's portrayal?
Brilliant. I think I love Christopher Eccleston as an actor, and I always have, and I probably always will, regardless of my opinions of his recent actions dealing with our other favorite thing, or my other favorite thing, which we won't talk about at all because I'll just get off on a tangent. We don't want that. I think that Christopher Eccleston delivered a great performance. He was very believable as a ancient, powerful.
Dark elf?
Yeah, he's a dark elf, but this ancient, powerful being who got basically wrapped on the nose with a rolled up newspaper like a bad doggy, and had to go into hiding for thousands of years, until this perfect moment in time woke him back up, and I like what they did with that. I think it was a very cool concept, and it led to one of the better, like you said, one of the better fight scenes in recent memory. It's almost as good as the fight scene in They Live, which you've never seen, but trust me, it's a hell of a fight scene. It's
Okay.
Roddy Piper.
Yeah, I thought he did a good job as Malekith. Took me a couple of scenes. I knew it was Eccleston playing the role. I knew that going in.
Mhm.
But it took me a couple of scenes to really see it. The makeup was very well done.
Oh, yeah, it really was. And even at the end of the movie, when we're sitting there, we're waiting for the extra scenes, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the movie, there are two scenes at the end. There's one that's in the credits, and then there's one at the very, 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 very end of the credits. So stay and watch them both. Anyway, but yeah, as we're sitting there watching the credits roll, Dad even says, because Dad went with us, but Dad even goes, "I didn't know that was Christopher Eccleston." I'm like, yeah. And
Yeah.
it does. You're almost halfway through the movie before you really see the face. And it's like, oh, I can see it now. There he is. I
Mhm.
heard it in the voice. It was clearly his voice, although he covered the accent. It was still his voice, and the face. They did a great makeup job.
They did. They really did.
I
Now the
suspect
first,
we're going to be seeing a lot of cosplayers throughout the next couple of years dressed as Malekith, or at least a dark elf.
I agree. Now, the first time I saw the movie, and again, you have to remember, the first time I went as a Loki fangirl.
Right.
And the first time I went and saw it, I almost walked out.
You know, we talked about this a little bit right after that movie, and I was sitting there going, man, I bet she was so pissed when this happened. And then, of course, other things happened. So, yeah,
And
so Loki
what we're
died.
talking, Loki died.
Yeah,
Uh,
sort of died. And they did
and
a great job of selling that, though. I mean, well, Loki did. He did a
yes,
great job of selling, oh, avenge me, brother. You know?
it was a very emotional scene. I cried, and then I went as far as starting to get up to walk out of the theater because if Loki's dead, why do I have to stay and watch the rest of the movie? But then the thought occurred to me, wait, this is Loki. This is a trick. He's not dead. He's not. And so I stayed, and I'm glad I did.
Right. Because
Um,
obviously Loki didn't actually die.
but we did get all the way to the last scene of the movie, and still I had they hadn't actually shown that he was alive. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be mad if I stayed for the rest of this movie and he really is dead. And then sure enough, we see in the very last scene, Odin and Thor have this really sweet father-son moment, except we find out it's not Odin, it's Loki in disguise.
Right.
And I'm like, thank you, Loki.
That's right.
So, the movie itself leaves the question open, what did Loki do with Odin? Did he kill him, or is he just locked away somewhere? Now, according to Anthony Hopkins, Loki killed Odin.
Right.
And Odin's dead.
And I can only assume that that's going to be revealed explicitly in the next adventure.
Right.
where Thor's going to have to figure out that that's not Dad.
So that means that as of right now, even though it's as Odin, he has the throne of Asgard.
Right, he's in control of Asgard right now. So just have to wait
Which
and
to
see.
me is a happy end. That's a happy end for me. Loki finally got to be king.
Fucking Loki's army. Anyway,
So all in all, I give the movie 4 stars.
hang on, I lost you. Okay, you're back. Sorry, you give the movie 4 stars, you say?
Yes.
Okay. I give, is that 4 out of 5?
4 out of 4.
Oh, 4 out of 4. Okay. I was gonna say that's weird, but 4 out of 4 makes more sense. I would give it, if we're gonna go based on 4s, I would give it a 3. And I only give it a 3 because to me, there's always something that can be improved upon. Marvel has done a fantastic job, but there's always something. There's always these little nitpicky things, and it's hard to find them with this movie. I would give it if we're going by the Siskel and Ebert method of grading movies, then it's a thumbs up. But I don't like giving a perfect score to anybody. That's just me.
I think the only thing this movie was lacking was more Loki scenes. There wasn't enough Loki.
There weren't enough boobs. You know what? I am in love with Lady Sif. I can't think of her real name, but that woman is gorgeous. Just absolutely beautiful, and fills out that armor nicely. Yeah. I'm also a big fan of Kat Dennings. Anytime she shows up in something, I'm a huge fan. I love Two Broke Girls. I love her role in both Thor movies. The her and the new intern getting it on during the battle is hilarious.
There are some people that, and I don't see this, I think it's a terrible fanfic ship, but people have started shipping her with Loki.
If any human girl is gonna be attracted to Loki, in that universe, not in the real world, but in that universe, I think it probably would be her. But it's a silly concept. We're not going to see that at all.
No. And for good reason. While Loki does have a lot of fangirls, it's very clear that within the movie universe, he has much more important things on his mind than relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. He has a certain disdain for humans to begin with. He certainly wouldn't have a relationship with a human. He might be one of those knocking boots and leave them before they wake up kind of guys, but not a relationship kind of guy. And so, if anything, you would see her sleep with him, but it wouldn't be a relationship.
No, and he cares way more about getting power than he does about being with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. He's very much I hate this term, he's asexual, for lack of a better term. He doesn't appear to give a damn about the fairer sex. He only cares about himself and his power.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
No, that's terrible. It'd be funny. It would lead to some funny moments, but
it
it's
would.
terrible. It's a bad idea.
So that's our review of Thor.
Like I said, stay and watch the final 2 scenes.
Oh, yes.
During the credits, there is a scene that sets up Guardians of the Galaxy, or whatever the hell it's called, with Benicio del Toro, which it's always fun to see Benicio show up. And then you also have the final scene, which is not crucial to the plot of the movie, but it is a nice little Jane gets her wish kind of thing, and the dog. The dog's pretty damn funny. So there's this creature during the battle scene with the portal jumping. There is a creature that's brought forward from the what appears to be the ice trolls homeworld, and it's this big ass, just gargantuan monster that is essentially doggish in stature and build and everything, but it's roughly the size of a brownstone, so you see him during that part, and then you don't see him again, and it some people like myself were sitting there going, okay, but what happened to the big creature running around frickin' London? And at the very, very, very end of the movie, you do see him chasing birds through what appears to be a shipyard. That's just a very funny moment because he's huge. It's like Clifford the Big Red Dog, except he's not a dog and he's not red.
So now
But that's his new name, Clifford.
So now that we've talked about how awesome Marvel is,
actually, Marvel is not all it's cracked up to be always. Marvel screws up too. And we're going to talk about that after you get past your little whatever this is going to be.
This is what we call the desecration of DC.
Is that what you went with?
Mm-hmm.
I like DC dumbassery.
Yes, but I'm trying not to use foul language.
Dumbass is a bad word?
Yes.
Red said it all the time on that 70s show.
If my toddlers can't say it, it's a bad word.
Ugh. Yeah, I hate to tell you, but we're not going to be ever able to meet that level of standard.
No, and that's within the show, that's fine. I don't want to call an overall thing something that I can't repeat. We're going with the desecration of DC, also known as Didio's DC Desecration.
I am getting tired of not just Dan Didio in general, but the New 52, the just stack upon stack upon stack of just stupid crap that the folks at DC have pulled.
Now, this last episode we did, I actually commented that I didn't really have a soapbox because there hadn't been anything stupid at DC lately, and I felt they either learned their lesson, which I doubted, or they were gearing up for something big.
Something just colossally stupid.
Something big is here.
Now, and I'm going to let you start this. I'll give you my opinions along the way.
Okay, actually, I'm not going to start with what I feel is the biggest one. I'm going to start with what has actually gotten the most attention.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I caught up. If you subscribe to a comic book, you expect to get all of the issues. You expect you're going to get issue 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, etc., 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 because you probably subscribe because you're a collector. Do you agree with me so far?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So you want issue 13, 14, 15, 16, da-da-da-da-da, mailed to you, hence why you subscribed.
Right.
When DC turns around and says, hold up, wait, you're not getting this issue, even though it falls in chronological order with your numbers, because it's a collector's edition and we're going to charge more for it, you tend to make subscribers mad.
Mad is probably putting it lightly. There was a great gnashing of teeth amongst the internet users over the last couple of weeks because of this issue.
And I understand, and you're never going to hear me say this again, so listen. I understand DC on this to an extent.
Yeah.
I understand this is a big issue, and I don't mean big as in I mean, literally, it is a
It is
issue with more
physically,
pages.
yes, it is a supersized issue. It is physically,
Right.
it's not just momentous, it is physically big.
Right. So it's a larger issue that is going to cost more money. I understand this. However, you promised your subscribers they were going to get all of these numbered issues. And just because you've gone and decided to make one of them a larger issue doesn't mean your subscribers don't expect to still get that issue. You didn't put any sort of disclaimer in your subscription that should any of these issues be collector's editions that cost more money, you weren't going to include them.
I'm trying to remember what the issue number is, but what we're talking about is
I
it
want to say
Detective Comics?
26.
It's either 26 or 27.
I want to say it's Detective Comics 26. I'll verify that right now.
Okay. So while she's verifying that, basically what we're talking about here is DC Comics is putting out a supersized issue. It's going to be like an $8 book, and it is a numbered issue in the series. So if you are a subscriber, you're expecting 25, 26, 27, 28. This number will not arrive if you're a subscriber through DC. Now, if you're going to your local comic book store and they're pulling issues for you, that's a little different. They're going to pull this issue most likely. You're going to pay the extra money for it, and you're going to be on your way. But if you're one of those that gets your issues delivered directly to your home from DC, you will not get this issue. And this has caused massive uproar among the community, which surprised me when I first heard about it, because I didn't know anybody still did this. I thought a lot of people were doing pulls from their local comic book store or getting them delivered from Mile High Comics or some other comic book retailer that delivers to homes. I didn't know that anybody was actually subscribing through DC Comics directly anymore. But be that as it may.
And just to, sorry to interrupt you, it is 27. Detective Comics number 27.
I thought so. So Detective Comics 27. It's going to be a giant-sized issue, and it's going to be it's going to have a lot going on in it, and because it's a milestone comic, and so for these reasons, specifically for the fact that it is a bigger book and therefore costs more to produce and is going to sell for a higher price, DC made the decision to not include it in their subscribers pull. Now they sent out a letter in advance saying you're not going to get this issue. You will still get.
Which is the only smart decision they made, was notifying everyone in advance.
Right. At least there was no surprise. It's a surprise you didn't get this month's issue. They didn't do that at least, but. You are still getting the 12 issues that you paid for if you're a subscriber. It's just that instead of getting, for example, books 12 through 24, you're getting 12 through 25 minus 20. Whatever. As long as you still get the 12 books, then you didn't lose out any money.
You're not losing out money, but you are losing out an issue.
Right. There's going to be a bit of a hassle involved. You're going to have to, locate a comic shop, make sure that they order you a copy of the book, or I haven't looked, but there may be a way to order just that one book directly from DC and pay the higher price. I'm not sure. So check on that if you're a subscriber. But, and to me, I think this is a terrible, terrible idea. It really should have been, and like we said, we understand where DC's coming from. We understand why the decision was made. But the earlier decision to make it a numbered book in the series was where they screwed up in the first place. What
Yes.
this should have been was an annual or a special one-shot or something that isn't part of the subscription, and therefore those subscribers would have known, okay, I got to go buy that.
Exactly. It wouldn't have impacted subscriptions at all.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's where DC went wrong in the first place.
Right.
And and that's why most series, you don't get special issues in the middle of them. You have your numbered books, and then you have one-shots and annuals.
Right.
It's not a foreign concept to the comic book world.
Yeah, that's what they're there for. Or, you know, split it across a multiple book story arc like everybody else in the fucking universe. But I digress.
So yes, I am putting the blame on DC for this because while I understand why the decision was made, the fact that there was a decision to be made was dumb.
Right. They put themselves into that spot where they had to make this decision. The decision itself, understandable. What led to that decision, dumb.
Exactly.
And it's another case of, God, those people are dumb.
Exactly.
Now, on the other hand, and I love this part of it, if you really think about it, it's kind of a good thing for comic book shops. Because this is going to reinforce the concept of go support your local comic book shop. Don't order directly from DC. Don't do that. Go to a local comic book shop, have them pull your books for you, and pay them the money. You know, yes, they have to pay a bit of it to DC to order the next round of books, but the money somewhat stays locally that when you do that, and I like that concept. I like the concept of the neighborhood comic book store. I always have. Every time I get back into comics, and I do that on a fairly infrequent basis, but every time I do get back into comics, I tend to go to my local comic book shop. Even now, I have the Kindle Fire, and I do like the Comixology app, but I miss a bit of the tactile sensation of a comic book. So, you know, there's always bonuses to go into your friendly neighborhood comic book store.
There is, and with me possibly ending the boycott, and we'll get to why it's possible not in a minute, I was on the fence about if I was going to get physical books again or go with digital, because there is something about holding a comic book from the comic shop.
Yeah. And especially with somebody like me, maybe not as much with you, but people like me who grew up reading, doing the weekly run to the comic books and seeing what was out there, and trying to read them as fast as you could before your brother stole them, and you never saw them again. I really did go through that. We fought over the X-Men comics, but so it harkens me back to my childhood, and so there is that bonus in that tactile sensation. But don't get me wrong, I do like the Comixology app. I am curious how they handled it in the Comixology app. I assume that it's just, since you buy those issues one by one anyway, it's not a true subscription. I guess it probably didn't affect them at all.
I doubt it did.
Here's your price. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was move number one.
Yeah, and that one is garnering a lot of press, and I don't understand why it's garnering so much press. And it's not just this is the weird part to me. It's not just in the comics community. You expect people like Dr. Langley, for example, who is a huge Batman fan. We know that he reads the books. He wrote the book.
Literally.
So we understand him having his opinions and weighing in and all that.
And he is not happy.
No, he's not. And again, understandable. And we understand people like Bleeding Cool or Ain't It Cool or whoever, all the different people that follow comic books already. But this actually got press from CNN. It was a slow news day. But
that's how dumb. They dumbed up on a national scale.
Right, exactly. And so we're seeing more and more of these stupid maneuvers from both of the major publishers as well as some of the lower ones. They do tend to end up on national news every now and then. DC more so than others. So
Didio's nationally dumb now.
That's right. He's nationally known as the dumbass at DC. Didio the dumbass. Ooh.
I like it. I like it a lot. So moving on to his next dumb move, And again, since Didio had to approve this, I blame him. Because when it came across Didio's desk, he should have said, no.
Well,
and that should have been the end of it.
you're right. It really should have, as publisher, editor, whatever the fuck he is, he really should be taking a step back and going, no. Do you understand the level of shitstorm that I get every day from shit you people pull and I approve? Please don't put me through this again. You know, at some point you would think that he'd come to that conclusion, but no.
No, see, and here's what happened. This is my version of what happened. I want to say that, okay? This may not be exactly how it all went down. This is my version of what happened.
Right. We have no evidence to suggest that this is actually what happened.
Right, but this is my version of what happened. He was sitting in his office, and he was wondering to himself, it's the end of the year, Stephanie's about to come back next month, and he's thinking, you know, all those fangirls are getting Stephanie back. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I have to have somebody to piss off. What can I do? And it was around this time that one of the writers came in. And they've been doing some stuff with Red Lantern. And the guy goes, you know, I think I can help you, Mr. Didio, sir. We can make all of the Supergirl fans mad. Let me make her a Red Lantern. And Didio said, genius. We shall make Supergirl a beacon of hope and love, a Red Lantern. And here we are. And that's my version of what happened.
Yeah, whether it's true or not we'll leave for history to decide. I'm pretty sure that's not what happened. I'm pretty sure that if Didio was sitting in his office, he was probably spanking it to Batgirl porn anyway.
Barbara.
Yeah, Barbara.
It was Barbara.
Porn,
yeah. It sure wasn't Stephanie.
You know, the whole concept of making Kara a Red Lantern, you have to, in my opinion, you have to take a step back and go, okay, but who are we really talking about? Because we're not talking about Kara Zor-El that everybody knows and loves from pre-New 52.
No.
We're talking about Kara Zor-El in the New 52, whom has, number one, she's a big ball of pent-up rage. Let's face it, she is. She goes to sleep, wakes up in her mind 3 days later, and finds out that her home has been destroyed. Her baby cousin, who she last saw as a baby 3 days ago, is now now in his middle 20s. He's older than her now, and has gone native. He doesn't even really know Krypton very well because he grew up human. Her first real love is a monster, and her father is Cyborg Superman.
Yes.
And that's just the beginning. You know, this poor girl, it's one thing after another, and I think what's probably going to end up happening is she's going to break a nail, and that's it. You know, she's fucking gone.
I think that the writers over at Supergirl comic book commentary really did it best, said it best. They wrote an article about this and how angry they are, and this is kind of the last straw for them. Mm-hmm. The writer of this, I believe it's a male, and he is loved every incarnation of Supergirl. He's, unlike me, he's an all-around Supergirl fan regardless of the version. He was a fan of Matrix, Linda, etc. I've always been a specific Kara fan.
Yeah, see, I like Matrix. I didn't know Linda, but I liked Matrix.
But this writer just loves Supergirl and what she stands for. And he covered all that, basically. And and this quote sums it up best. He writes, "Because it's clear DC thinks that Supergirl can only exist as an angry, isolated young woman. When things don't seem to be selling well enough, their solution is to make her darker." And that pretty much sums up what they've done with Kara since New 52 started. They've continued to make her darker. And it started with issue number 1, the whole "don't piss her off" thing.
Right.
And I saw this direction, not obviously this destination, but this direction being taken with her from issue 1. You commented then that they might get back to the Kara we knew and loved. That was their starting point. And I said it didn't look like it.
Right.
And unfortunately, I was right again.
Not necessarily, because while yes, this is a major departure from what we understand the character of Kara to have always been, the new character, and they're writing this from the point of view that this character never existed. They started from scratch with this Kara, which they had to. Let's face it. If you're going to do it, just start over. I honestly wish more DC books had done that, had started from scratch. Again, we've talked about the non-reboot, but the Tony Bedard is the writer that's going to be taking over, and he's the one that's going to be moving her into the Red Lantern story arc. But I was reading an interview by him that his whole thing is, yeah, this isn't permanent. It is for a little while. This isn't a 3-issue story arc by any means. We're going to see a Red Lantern Kara probably at least for a year, maybe 2. But eventually she's going to come back to Supergirl, the Supergirl that we expect her to be. This is a growth period for her. His whole point is to grow the character and really mature her and have her come to grips with all the crap she's had to deal with, and okay, get the fuck over it, grow up, and be who you should be. Take these powers that fate gave you. Yeah, it took everything away from you, but it gave you an amazing ability and future. You need to embrace that. And I think that her being the Red Lantern is probably what's going to trigger all that. But obviously it's a growth period, so it's going to take time. If they were writing this character, if this were any other character that happened to be Kryptonian and had to go through all this crap, nobody would care. If Kara Zor-El had never existed prior to New 52, nobody would care that this is the route they decided to take, because it's been a building process of, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and then that's it, I'm done. She's gonna snap. So I get that. The reason that there's so much outrage on this is because of the name. Because it is Kara Zor-El and it is Supergirl, who has been, prior to New 52, that symbol of light and hope and whatever. It has lit a fire that is not going to be easily extinguished. Do I agree with the decision? No, I don't. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a dumb idea because of who it is. If this were a character that was brand new, then this progression would make sense. If you can sit there and just turn a blind eye to everything that came before 3 years ago, or however long it's been now, then you'd go, okay, yeah, no problem. This makes sense. Bad thing on top of bad thing on top of bad thing, and the Red Lanterns are handy. Let's do it. It's because it's Kara. It's because it's such a departure from what the original character has always symbolized, and that's what pisses everybody off.
Right, and it's the same kind of outrage we've gotten with the direction they've taken Clark.
Right, they have these iconic characters that they are completely changing, And people who have loved these characters growing up through all these years, it offends us as fans of the character. And
It's like
so
this. It's like Diana and Clark suddenly being a thing. It just
that's not a sudden thing. There's always been different writers have shown it in different ways, but there's always been that level of mutual attraction that's never really gone anywhere.
But pre New 52, Clark never would have picked Diana over Lois.
And I think that's a matter of timing. They changed the timing of all the meetings and everything. Clark and Lois just haven't hit that point in their life yet. I really do think that this whole Diana Clark thing is probably just a stepping stone and a bridge in their world, and they'll move apart. They're not. It's not a forever kind of thing.
If it were any company other than DC, I would agree with you. DC seems to like it this way, though.
Yeah, well, that everything changes once somebody moves away from the company. So as soon as Dan Didio quits, gets fired, or dies in office, I think that will be.
I'm surprised there haven't been more assassination attempts by angry comic fans. If I were him, I'd be beefing up security.
It's easier to just bitch about it on the internet.
This is true.
You know, do you understand how much work, planning, and exertion goes into trying to assassinate somebody? That's a lot of work. I could just go online and just bitch my little fanboy heart out. That's a lot easier.
True. Now, and you're right. If Supergirl, if Kara was a new character, nobody would care. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how much DC wants to try to make us forget that there was a DCU prior to New 52, your hardcore fans are never going to forget. These are iconic characters.
Absolutely. 40-plus years of history with this particular character. And you can't just make that change. And that's what the writers didn't get.
And it's upsetting to me as a Supergirl fan because the thing with Supergirl is she always has been Hope. She was never perfect, and that was kind of what made her so cool. She had this really big shoes to fill. You know, she was Superman's cousin. She had this symbol on her chest. She wanted to live up to the standard he had set.
That's not true.
But
the pre-crisis Kara was very much perfect. She never screwed up. Neither did Superman. That was part of the problem with comics, is they were always perfect. There were no major fuck-ups in comic books until Crisis. Once Crisis happened and they were able to go, all right, that's all done, let's bring it all together and let's make it dark and gritty. That's when you started to get these flawed characters in comics, and that's when comic books became compelling again. They were great. And the Kara that you're used to didn't show up till just a couple decades ago.
But I know pre-crisis Kara. Can I please finish?
Good.
Yes, she was more perfect pre-crisis. Everybody was. But she always was a symbol of hope. The super shield has always been a symbol of hope.
Absolutely.
And
I think it actually means hope.
That's the version you look at. In some versions, it's just the crest of the House of L.
Yeah.
But Superman turned it into a symbol of hope. Kara lived up to that. Post-crisis Kara was more flawed. She was a teenage girl, but both versions of Kara always had a very good heart and very strong humanity, to where it was very easy to forget that she was an alien teenager.
Well, what about the whole? And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. What about when she was basically taken in by Darkseid? I mean, that's as close to a Red Lantern as you're going to get because it was before the Red Lanterns even existed.
She was brainwashed.
Who's,
Darkseid brainwashed her. Darkseid brainwashed Superman before. That's what Darkseid does. He's a god.
okay, but who's to say that this Red Lantern storyline wouldn't have existed in pre-52, back when Kara first came around, if
What
the Red
issue
Lanterns had
versus
existed?
one issue of Kara going dark versus her actually being a Red Lantern for an extended length of time?
It's simply giving into her rage.
Kara should not be filled with enough rage to be a Red Lantern.
Wouldn't you be?
Given everything they've done to her, yes, and I've complained about everything they've done to her up to this point, too.
And again, that gets back to the point. It's only because that this is Kara that this is a problem. It's actually, if you look at this storyline, if you ignore the name Kara Zor-El and Supergirl, and you just say this teenager went through all this crap, yeah, I'd be a Red Lantern too. So their progression makes sense, and it's a compelling story.
The progression makes sense. The fact that they took this path, I don't even think it's just the Red Lantern thing. I mean, it's not like the Red Lantern thing came out of nowhere. It's everything that they've done leading up to this, and this is where we are now.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. I get that and obviously we've talked about this before. You're much more of a Supergirl fan than than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Any other character in the universe, even more so than Stephanie, which is saying a lot for you. You've always been a Kara fan.
And the fact of the matter is, this is upsetting enough to me that even though they're bringing Stephanie Brown back next month, and I've been dead set on supporting Steph no matter what, I am seriously considering continuing my boycott of DC comic books just because I'm so upset at what they've turned Kara into. Not just the Red Lantern, but what they've turned her into as a whole. And this is just an accumulation of that.
Yeah. I think that had this storyline happened and matured on a faster scale, I mean, this is all, if they had done all this in the first year and a half, and she was, just compress her timeline to where, yeah, all this shit still happened, but it was boom, 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 4 months later, boom, 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 4 months later, so on and so forth. All this shit gets compressed into, in real time, about a year and a half's worth of comic books, and then, but all along say, stick with it, you're gonna love what ends up happening, and then they reveal the new version of Kara as that symbol of hope, that she overcame all this stuff, and she became a Red Lantern, but she found her way back to herself, her humanity, for lack of a better term, her kryptonity. I think it would have been a better way of doing it if you're locked into doing it that way anyway. And I have to make that assumption. They were locked into really fucking with this character and putting her through some shit. If they had done it faster, it probably wouldn't piss as many people off, because they could have seen that light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
And nobody can see that.
No, and I'm going to quote something else from the Comic Box commentary. And I'm going to post the link to this article up on the JoF Facebook page, because it's actually very well written. But it goes on to say, I have tried to be patient with the nonsense of the New 52, the never-ending grimness, the aloof Superman, the killing heroes, the bickering Justice League, the evil is relative tagline, The obvious missteps with Supergirl I have tried. Maybe this is a short-lived thing, maybe this is her story of redemption as she slowly rejects the rage, but I can't be sure anymore because DC has just made one misstep after another. I don't think they are thinking that far in advance, and regardless, this announcement, it didn't make me angry, it depressed me. And that pretty much sums it up. Okay, so you're planning on this being short-lived? How can we be sure this is DC we're talking about? And
Right.
when you said this, that the writer is planning on getting her out of this and bringing her around, well, I don't buy it. I'll believe it when I see it at this point. I just can't trust that DC is going to do right by any of their characters anymore.
Right, and that's assuming that the writer doesn't get fired after 3 issues anyway.
Which at DC is a complete possibility. Didio
Right.
fires writers for nothing.
Yeah, and let's face it, this particular writer he worked on the pre-New 52 Kara. He actually was on the books. So he's already got a mark against him. You know, that seems to be the thing. Oh, you worked on this character before New 52? Okay, we'll bring you on and fire you after 6 books.
Pretty much.
You know, I completely understand. I really do. I'm not saying that this is a good thing. I'm agreeing that this is a bad idea. I'm simply saying that had this been someone else, this wouldn't have been as bad of an idea. Or had this been done faster, you know, give those fans, those loyal fans, the ones who are, by the way, still buying your books even though they hate them, give them a light at the end of the tunnel and stick with it. Show the plan and keep updating, saying, yep, we're still going to be doing that. Yep, keep doing it in. Yep, our deadline is this day. That's when it's all going to change. Just stick with it. If they could do that and be believable, which they're not. They have no credibility with fans right now. And it's going to take a long time to get that credibility back. And it's probably also going to take firing Dan Didio. But if they had that credibility and they did this in a much shorter time span, I think that they'd have been a lot better off. And you know, of course, let's face it, if they hadn't done the damn thing in the first place, if they just left shit alone, or at the very least, here's my thing about Flashpoint. Flashpoint was a great story. It really was. Right up until the end. If all you wanted to do was change the costumes, if that was the whole point, fine. But why did you have to make these sweeping changes to characterizations? These characters were fine the way they were. Okay, you wanna roll back and say, okay, some of this shit hasn't happened yet. We're gonna retell it. Fine, retell how Lois and Clark got together. Retell how Diana came to the New World. Retell Batman and the kids. That's fine, but don't change the fundamental characters, and that's what's pissing everybody off.
Yes.
And it doesn't. To me, it doesn't piss me off anymore. I think I'm more along the line of the writer of that article. It doesn't piss me off. It depresses me. Comic books used to be a great thing, and they aren't anymore. The best thing going in comics right now is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I say that because even Marvel is making some really dumb decisions in their books. I mean, I haven't checked recently, but they killed off Peter Parker in the Ultimate Spider-Man line, and he's dead. Not like comic book dead, hiding in the shadows. No, he's dead. People in the Ultimates line don't come back. So they've got a new Spider-Man over there. What was I going to say? In the main books, Peter Parker is not Spider-Man. It's his body, but it's Doc Ock inside the brain, which is what? You know? And I don't know how much longer that's going to go on. The new Ghost Rider is driving a fucking car. I'm sorry. He's not a Ghost Rider if he's driving a car. At best, he can be, if you want to involve a car, and don't get me wrong, it's a Dodge Charger and it looks fucking amazing. It's the same model Dodge Charger that the General Lee was in the old Dukes of Hazzard. So it's a nice looking car. It's jet black. It's got a nice big intake on the hood. It's an awesome looking car, but he can only be called the Ghost Rider if somebody else is driving. So you kind of picture Caretaker or somebody, you know, behind the wheel going, "I got you, buddy," and the Ghost Rider is kind of leaning out with his chain and whack. You know, it's not the same. A Ghost Rider needs to be on a motorcycle. He needs to be a biker. It would be the same, you know. The image of Ghost Rider being a biker is so iconic that DC years and years ago stole the concept and made Lobo, who, by the way, looks gay in the new 52.
Right.
I
It's a
hate
terrible
the new Lobo.
design.
Yeah, the new Lobo design's terrible, but the new Ghost Rider design is just as bad. It doesn't.
And I
It
never
doesn't
said
look
that
like an
Marvel
actual
was
flaming.
perfect.
No, I know.
I
I'm
never
just.
said Marvel
My point is that
was
comic
perfect,
books
but
in
their
general.
stupidity does.
Hang on, we both can't talk. Hang on. All right, what were you saying?
I was just saying that um, Marvel's not perfect, but compared to DC, um, I mean, DC's done a lot more stupid stuff than Marvel on a grander scale.
Especially here lately. Absolutely. Their sweeping changes have just completely ruined every single book that DC puts out. There's not a good book right now, in my opinion, or not a good enough book to warrant me spending any money on DC right now.
Well, they've made me so mad that I may not even buy the new Stephanie books, which is really saying something.
Yeah, it really is. You know, Marvel's making their own dumbass decisions. The only good comics out there right now are coming out of Zenescope. Zenescope's doing some amazing things with classic fairy tale people that didn't come out right. But anyway, Peter Pan, Alice in Wonderland, Snow White, they're taking classic tales and turning them up on their heads, and they're doing a fantastic job at it. And it's, you know, when Marvel did its Ultimates line, it was a great idea. DC has never, in the past, not since the death of Superman and Batman's back being broken, those are the last two truly epic storylines that DC did. Everything, well, no, I take that back. The whole Sinestro Corps and everything that led up to Brightest Day, that was actually pretty cool. Blackest Night, Brightest Day, right up until Swamp Thing. It's a terrible ending to a great series, but anyway, and that was really the end of the beginning of the end, is in my opinion, of
Absolutely.
DC Comics.
Yeah.
I think that when history goes back and looks at why DC Comics went out of business, which they're gonna do if they don't straighten their shit up, or they're gonna get bought out by Marvel.
I would actually
I think
like to see that. I would love to see Marvel get DC, fire Didio, and bring the characters back to their greatness.
I actually want to see Stan Lee specifically buy DC Comics. I want to see Stan the Man buy DC Comics.
Oh, that would rock.
And start a new era of Marvel versus DC, to where it's a true competition to see who's got the better books. Because right now nobody's winning. The comic book industry in general is just one fuck up after another. DC has taken it to a whole new level. I mean, they are taking the cake, man. They have made some really dumb decisions over time, and this whole thing with Kara, to me, is just nothing compared to all the other dumbass shit they've done.
To me, I've been wanting to buy Supergirl's book since issue 1.
Right.
I've been looking for a reason to buy it. Stephanie's coming back. The reason for my boycott is ending.
Yeah.
This was the time that I would pick up a Supergirl book again.
Just to see what they've done.
And look what they did to her.
Yeah. No, I get that. I like I said, I completely get it. I understand where the writing is coming from, because you're writing for a teenage girl who has had a lot of shit go wrong. So I get it. But you're also writing for Kara, and that's different. She's not just your normal teenage girl.
Yeah,
So yeah, they're making some really, really,
it makes
really dumb decisions.
it makes me very, very scared to have Stephanie involved in the New 52.
Oh yeah.
I'm kind of thinking this is going to be a case of be careful what you wish for. We may be wishing that Stephanie had stayed gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you are. I think me, I don't care. But as a Stephanie fan, I think you're probably going to be pretty upset if you do buy the books. I think that if I were you, I would obtain the books some other way before spending any money on them, and then decide if it's worth it to break your boycott.
I may have to do that because I am disgusted with DC at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, oh, but seriously, yeah, go look at the new Ghost Rider. Oh, it's terrible. He looks so dumb. It's not even a flaming skull head anymore. It's more like a mask that's on fire, and it's terrible. Go Google it. No, really, go. um, you know,
Anyway,
huh?
so that's all I have for this week. My main thing really was the Kara thing. I feel like this is just completely outrageous for the character. Yes, the New 52 has been making beloved characters unrecognizable since day one. First, it was the Superman fans that were outraged. Then it was the Wonder Woman fans and the Barbara fans, and pretty much every hardcore fan group in the DCU has been alienated at some point or another through this course.
Yeah.
With Kara, it was, and I think that the writer of the comic box commentary got it just right. Most Kara fans, and myself included, even though I haven't been reading the books, I've been keeping up with what's going on with her. It's been a matter of, okay, this isn't Kara, but maybe it'll get better. Okay, this is getting worse, not better, but let's see what happens. Okay, still getting worse. And now it's like, wait a second, now she's a Red Lantern?
Oh, hell no.
And it really is a matter of just this accumulation of, okay, DC, we're sticking with you on this, we're following along, you're losing us now, okay, that's it.
Yeah. I think that that you will see probably a mass exodus of Kara fans from DC at this. You're already getting a lot of people that are pissed off enough about the Batman issue 27 of Detective Comics that have already left. This is probably just another nail in the coffin. We're fans of comic books are slowly, unfortunately, moving away from comic books.
Which is sad
it's
because
not.
the comic book fandom is one of the most loyal fandoms out there.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and the DC fans prove it. They will stick with you no matter how stupid you get to an extent.
Yeah.
The fact that Didio has moved to a point that he's actually losing more and more people, really, 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 really sad.
It's a bit sad when the best thing happening in the DC Comics industry is Arrow on the CW, and it's really sad when the best thing happening in the comic book industry as a whole, at least from the major two players, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's not even Marvel's main books, it's their movies. Their movies have been really good, everything since Ghost Rider 2.
And it's a cinch that and you know, I will give Marvel that. At least they got the movies. DC can't even say that. And
right,
they're making,
yeah.
And if you look at their next big movie, which is going to be the sequel to Man of Steel, fans are getting more and more upset about that.
Yeah, you know, I was pretty upset about the casting of Ben Affleck. I could give a damn who they've casted as Diana. She's pretty. She's got the height. She's got the athleticism. I think that she's going to be just fine as and believable as Diana.
It's not
They
even
need to
just
leave
the
her alone.
It's not even just the casting. Some people, it's just the casting. But the
Yeah.
other thing is the fact that Wonder Woman's going to be included in the movie at all.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. This is supposed to be the second Man of Steel movie, and it introduces Batman, which of course is supposed to set up the whole Justice League concept. So from that point of view, I get why Wonder Woman might be there, and it may even just be one scene. We don't even know what her role is going to be.
This makes me wonder if they're going to go back to Kara's original origin, which did have all three of them in it. And I said from the get-go, they made it very clear that Man of Steel had some setup points for Kara. Even in the prequel comic book for Man of Steel, Kara's featured in it. So they've done a couple of things to set up Kara being in the sequel. And the inclusion of Wonder Woman makes me wonder if they're going to try to go back to her original origin.
Well, her more recent origin.
Right.
Not the current one, but the one right before it.
her pre-New 52 origin.
Yeah, her New Earth origin, not pre-Crisis. Right. Her original origin didn't have either of those two in it.
No, I meant her New Earth origin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know if they're going to go that route, but they've kind of set that up if that's the route they're taking.
Yeah. It is, the stage is set to be able to do that. Whether or not that's what they're doing, probably not, to be honest. Do you really think they're that smart?
No, I don't.
Based on Man of Steel, now I sort of enjoyed Man of Steel for the most part. It did have some glaring issues, but for the most part, I actually did enjoy Man of Steel, but it wasn't great.
It didn't stack up to anything in the Marvel Cinematic U.
No, not even close. It absolutely did not. It was better than the Ghost Rider sequel. It was about as good as Daredevil. So maybe that's why they casted Ben Affleck. Hey, it was as good as Daredevil. Let's bring in Daredevil. I don't know.
And the other thing that fans are fearing is that by bringing in Wonder Woman, they're going to put Superman and Wonder Woman together, and Lois is going to get the shaft again.
Or, more specifically, not get the shaft.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be a shame if they are going to use Wonder Woman to overshadow Lois, because Amy Adams did a brilliant job.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Amy Adams was the shining star of that whole movie.
Oh, absolutely.
She made the movie watchable.
Yes, she did. She was good.
So. And
it would be a shame for Wonder Woman to come in and overshadow her.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens, but the more news comes out, the more hope I lose.
You know what you could do? Stop looking at comic book news. Your life would be so much easier.
You know what? It comes to me. Do you know how I found out about Kara Red Lantern? Someone IM'd me and said, "Hey, did you hear Kara's a Red Lantern?"
Okay, whoever did that, unfriend them.
Jill
unfriend
did that.
Jill. Damn it, Jill. Quit doing shit like that and riling up my sister.
Jill is the reason we are doing this episode right now.
Yeah. Yeah, if it hadn't been for Jill, we could have waited a week. I tell you. Well.
But this stuff just comes to me.
Yeah.
I started a campaign now that we have Stephanie back to try to get Mia Dearden back into the comics, but I'm rethinking this now. I'm rethinking that.
Yeah, let's wait and see what they end up doing with Stephanie before we start clamoring for another one to come back. And let's face it, I'd rather see Donna come back than anybody, but I'd rather her never have existed than be fucked up in the New 52.
And they've done it to all the characters.
Right.
Clark, Diana, Kara, Roy. Pretty sure that the only character that they haven't completely messed up is Bruce.
Yeah, and I find that odd that he's of all the major characters, he's the only one that they didn't fuck with at all.
They've messed up
It's like
Barbara.
they're afraid
Everybody,
he's real.
yeah, everybody around him did. Barbara got messed up. Dick
Yeah,
got messed up.
all the kids,
Tim,
absolutely.
um, Harley, even his rogue gallery.
Yeah,
But so everyone around Bruce got affected. Bruce is the one that got untouched,
yeah. Oh
and
well.
he is the only one. I think Didio secretly thinks he is the Bat.
No, I think somebody's convinced him that the Batman is real. That's that all these others are fake. The Batman is based on a true story. Have
Didio.
you seen the Twitter account that's posted by the Batman? Do you follow that one?
I follow one of them. I don't know if it's the same one
It
you're talking
actually
about.
he does it in character as if he
Yeah.
is the Batman. Yeah, he's fucking funny. Whoever's writing that is hilarious. Anyway, so to recap, Thor 2 was pretty damn good. DC is still pretty damn stupid, and Didio needs to die in a big fall of fiery death.
The desecration of DC continues.
Yep, is what it is. You know, I don't get it. I
So,
understand bringing more character to your characters, but don't fuck it up. You know, run
well,
this shit by your fans first. Go, hey, what would y'all think if we did this? No, okay, we won't do that.
well, this goes back to what I talked about in the fan fiction panel, characterization. And
Yeah.
this is true, although this is true for fan fiction, this is even more true if you're writing the official canon books. Stay in character.
Right.
Don't make your characters so unrecognizable that your readers go, hey, wait a second.
Yeah. You know, and again, because this is New 52, technically they are staying in character. It's just a really bad character. And that's the thing. It's a bad character. There is no goodness. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say, but this is a poorly written character. And it's a
This is
shame
a
that
poorly
it's because it's Kara. It's a shame that it's such a poorly written character.
this is a poorly written universe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And I don't even blame the writers as much as I blame Didio, because I really do feel like all of the writers are just trying to please Didio, because look at the turnover rate of writers in DC right now.
In other more positive news, Bryan Singer, who is the director of the first two X-Men films, as well as the X-Men Days of Future Past, which is about to release, he's the guy that really brought comic book movies into the mainstream successfully. The X-Men movies were the first ones to really show what a good comic book movie could be for the new era.
Isn't he also the same man that brought us Superman Returns, though?
He is, and that's you really only want to stick him in the eye with a fork because he was so locked into trying to make a movie that was a sequel to a version of Superman that doesn't exist anymore. Had that movie been made instead of Superman 3 back in the mid-'80s, it would have been fine. If you watch 1, 2, and then 3, 1, 2, and then Returns, if you watch them, they work well together. But it doesn't work with what at that time was our concept of what Superman should be. And that's why that movie was a failure, really and truly. But be that as it may. And let's face it, Kevin Spacey did an amazing job as Lex Luthor. Be that as it may, he has announced that his next X-Men project is going to be Apocalypse, which is awesome. Apocalypse is kind of the dark side of the Marvel. Well, no, that's Thanos. Thanos is the dark side of the Marvel universe. Apocalypse is like the oldest living mutant. He's an immortal mutant that was born in ancient Egypt, and it's always a phenomenal storyline when Apocalypse is involved. So really looking forward to that.
More good news from Marvel again.
Yeah, from the X-Men side of the house. Marvel's really weird, and it's because they did these all so separately. So you've got Fox, which owns all the rights to the X-Men stuff, and the term mutant, by the way. It's going to make Avengers 2 kind of interesting. Then you've got Sony, which has all the rights to Spider-Man, just Spider-Man and his villains. And then you've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has everything else: Ghost Rider, the Avengers, all the stuff revolving around the Avengers. That's all Marvel Cinematic, and Marvel and Disney have all that, but they can't cross each other, and that's a little weird to me. They've already confirmed that Scarlet Witch, played by Elizabeth Olsen, the youngest of the Olsen sisters, or I don't know, they may have a younger one, but she's Mary-Kate and Ashley's younger sister. Anyway, and so much prettier.
Right?
And also Quicksilver, who I don't know who they casted as Quicksilver yet, but those two, they're siblings, and they are the son and daughter biologically of Magneto. But they can't be called mutants. So I'm curious how they're going to do that. They are powered, but they're not mutants in the Avengers universe. But they're going to be in Avengers too. But because of the way the license is written, the term mutant can only be used in the X-Men films. And they also can't. I don't think they're going to be able to say, "Oh, we're Magneto's kids." I think they're just going to be a brother and sister powered team.
Okay.
Going to be kind of interesting, I think. I'm curious how they're going to do their backstory. So, anyway.
Anyway, so to sum up, Marvel is smarter than DC.
They don't fuck up quite as much.
Not on this grand scale.
Yeah, let's put it that way. When they do fuck up, it doesn't piss everybody off. It only pisses some people off.
Didio just takes it to this grand scale and makes sure everyone's included. He don't leave anybody out.
Yeah. He
Merry
does.
Christmas, Kara fans. You have a Red Lantern.
He does take it to a whole new level. Ooh, maybe that's what it is. It's a Christmas tie-in. You have Kara as a Red Lantern, and so you got your Red Lanterns and your Green Lanterns. Red and green, holiday colors.
We're going to finally get our Hal and Kara pairing then?
There you go. No, that's not what it is. I don't know. It is what it is. What are you going to do, right?
It is what it is, and what it is infuriating.
Yep.
It's made all the Kara fans full of rage.
There you go. Kara may not be a Red Lantern, but goddammit, her fans are. Anyway, so that's our show.
That's all I got. Yeah. I am going to post a link to the article I've been quoting. Definitely recommend looking at it. It basically sums up my feelings pretty well. Don't agree with all of it, but I agree with about 99% of it. It's well written, and I think it sums up what most Supergirl fans are feeling right now. Yeah, so look for that on our Facebook and Twitter page, and I can't say it enough. Dan Didio has a Twitter now. Tweet him.
Tweet the hell out of him. Piss him off. Go ahead.
Let him know that you don't like what DC is doing. Maybe if we blow up his Twitter feed enough, he'll realize he's the most hated comic book person on the internet.
There you go.
So until next time, and hopefully next time, it won't be just one long soapbox.
Well, no, we talked about Thor.
We did talk about Thor.
So,
and Loki's always happy.
So
news.
it was an entire soapbox. Stay tuned. Of course, we will have something around Christmas time. Something. We don't know what we're going to do yet. We haven't made those
Something.
plans. That's in the future. That's at least a week
But
away.
definitely stay tuned. There are some things in the works for JoF TV, so always stay tuned. If I get a chance tonight, I may even post up a little bit of the Christmas stuff that I see tonight. If there's anything interesting, share a little bit of the Christmas cheer.
That would be very cool.
So stay tuned for that.
And obviously keep an eye on jackalopesfire.com, JoF TV at YouTube, and stay safe. Come back and see us soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.